Welcome, Mike Mongo, to the Wholesome Crypto Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Bum, bum, bum.
That's what I want from you. That high energy.
If you think that's high energy, hang on, everybody.
Oh my God. So we all know you from your work as an astronaut teacher, helping kids out, get into the space, and traveling the world, just educating. Most important thing in the world you can do, share education. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I received.
And now we know that you're getting into the crypto space with your NFT project.
Okay, all right.
Or maybe you're always in it, but we're going to figure that out on this show.
Continue on.
So before we get into crypto and into what you're doing now, I want to know, what was Mike Mongo doing before? What before you even found out about crypto, before you started getting into your to start teaching around the world, what were you doing?
My background is I co-founded Obey with Shepard Fairey,
The clothing brand?
as a graffiti artist.
The clothing brand?
Well, it's an art movement, but yeah, it's expressed as a clothing brand too. Obey the brand.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So in '92, Shepard and I started working together, and and so then we really, when I went to Berkeley, he went to San Diego. Alfred Hawkins and Blaze Bluen, rest in peace, Blaze, and he went in San Diego. I was in the Bay Area, and then we just from there kind of just blossomed, and Obey turned into what it is. Yeah. So then I got to work with OFA, Obama for America, during that campaign period, and then by that point, I had always been in computers, and I was working in marine science research. This is around 2007, 2006, 2000. So right at that, this all happened at the same time. So then I started to, I was thinking about what I wanted to do next, and I had the opportunity to do whatever I want. That's sort of been my MO. And I began, I wrote the Astronaut instruction manual then, and I began teaching in schools and students. There's always situations and settings where someone who is advocating with an informed position on nearly any subject matter, any subject matter that you have a passion for, you can pretty much talk with students. It could be computers, could be crypto, could be blockchain, could be at one point I was teaching students how to use Google. It was amazing. This is how far we've come, that communicating with students who weren't even working on computers, by the way, Rudy. So this is the whole thing has just been one giant movement. Wow. And I guess if you want to start somewhere, it was when I was a kid and I loved science fiction and art simultaneously. It led to everything that I just explained.
Exactly.
It's been an amazing adventure, a wild adventure. And I was 42 when I realized that it was 2006, and I realized that I was 41, 42, and I wasn't an astronaut. And in 2006, if you wake up and you're 41 and you're not an astronaut, chances are you're not going to get to be an astronaut. The world has changed now. It's 15 years later. But at that time, I said, okay, so if I can't be an astronaut and I have the other half of my life to live, in my 80s, with the universe is friendly and kind to me in that regard, then what will I do, since the only thing I haven't done that I ever wanted to do left on my list is astronaut. Right. And that's why I wrote the Astronaut instruction manual, because I would be able to give students permission to imagine themselves living, working, and playing in space. And that would absolve me of the disappointment of not getting to go to space myself. Like I said, it's now the future. It's 15 years later, and everything has changed.
Yep.
My friend, Dr. Cyan Proctor, whose launch team, I was on her personal launch team for Inspiration 4 mission in September. She's in her 50s, and she just went to space. I got to do my very first zero-G training that month as part of the launch team. The second to only thing better that I've ever done on the planet is to love and be loved by another person. Second to that It is the absolute best thing that I've ever done in my
That's
life.
so intense. It's so awesome. I always wanted to try that out.
You will have the opportunity.
You think it's going to be like one of those
It's
tourist attractions?
it's
Just come.
well. I know your trajectory. It's well within accessibility, and you're going to get to do it, and it is incredible.
Wow. And what's the next step for you now? That well, at that point, what was the next step after doing the zero?
So then, and I've always worked in computers and technology. I bought domains early on, and I've done very well with those.
Mhm.
And I was there when Bitcoin unfolded, and I made my own decisions at that time. I've been involved with the like my I was a part of Crypto Titties,
Mhm.
which showed up on the blockchain on January 4th, 2018, 9 days after Ether rocks. And that's the first NFT project for social good built in. And the legitimate creator of it is Ami Gendron. And Ami, his mom had breast cancer. And so he wanted it like with a nod to CryptoKitties.
Crypto
Um,
titties.
yes. And then 10% of all sales go to raise money for support of people with breast cancer, for awareness,
That's awesome.
for we work closely with an organization called the breasties.org who do phenomenal work, and we just last month gave I think 33 ETH to the organization.
Wow.
Yeah, the Crypto Titties do terrific on just the sales have just been great. So that was my beginning. We started a project called Collectiverse, which we'll probably all see here in the future. Ami and I started that, and it was on the back burner. He wanted me to work harder on it, but he was the one that introduced me to blockchain more than anyone, and very specifically, no, he really introduced me to NFTs.
Gotcha.
That's really what it was, and that was and because of that, I got in what people would call early,
Mhm.
and I got to be one of the I just have that credibility, and Rudy, that kind of credibility can only be built over time.
Exactly. People see that and appreciate what you've done, so that's definitely valid. But when you first heard about Bitcoin, was that enough for you?
So Bitcoin wasn't the big switcher for me.
Ah,
And NFTs was the big switcher. The thing that really got me rolling with W3, with Web3, is NFTs. That's the thing. Like crypto is like we think of it as just one way,
mhm.
and Bitcoin is not the thing that Ethereum is, and Ethereum is not the thing that Polygon is, and this evolution of cryptocurrency that has become Web3 is the interesting thing. And NFTs are like, I've been waiting as an artist. I've been waiting for NFTs my whole life.
Mhm.
It's like as a scientist, I was waiting for Google my entire life. No kidding.
I
And being 57, these are the things that matter. Like I made it.
yeah,
Like I'm
you're
here,
living it.
and we're doing this thing, and it's multi-generation and multicultural, and there's a place for everyone, and we get to use scarcity as a game as opposed to a quality of life that is just untenable. Scarcity, like I don't have a CryptoPunk, or I do have a Bored Ape, is a great game, but scarcity when it's in the kitchen, or in my or if I don't even have a kitchen, or if I don't have a car, if I don't have a job, or if I don't have medical, nothing is good about that.
Yeah.
And Web3 is the evolution of commerce in a way that enables liquidity and abundance for all of us. And yes, it's not a simple process. Excuse me, it's not a immediate process. There is messiness. Yes, we get to learn the hard way all the way through to get to the place we want to get to.
Mhm.
Yeah, these are all the things this is what's happening right now here in 2022.
And exactly. And like as you said, scarcity plays a huge part, especially I mean in like cryptocurrency in general, because so many coins have a limit to their max supply. But scarcity plays a huge role in NFTs. And I guess when you were first hearing about NFTs, were you already thinking of how you can contribute in a way where, you know, helping
Right.
public
So
goods? Or,
when they were first introduced to me, they were called crypto collectibles. That's what we used to call them.
okay.
And then they became NFTs. And then that was in 2020, that 2021 that I really started to 2020 that I started to really notice NFTs. Like I just started to hear it. Like the people that I work around and that I listen to or that I'm interested in how they're having their life
Mhm.
experience. That the three letters in F and T were showing up a lot. So then in the beginning of 2021, like so many of us, I just started moving in that direction
Nice.
and towards it. Like there's a shiny light. It wasn't a shiny object. It was a bright light, and we all started headed to it. Minting on the blockchain and having a NFT project, if it's one-on-one, if it's
Yeah.
PFP, if it's a gender project in 2021, being part of that, the immutable 2021 is one of the most important accomplishments of my life.
Wow.
And then being a co-creator of Cosmic Pause and the Muttniks project, I love that project with Kyle and Geo
Mhm.
and that going through that with them and being going through it while our friends are going through the experience with their
Yeah.
projects, and then all of us sharing in that experience together. Wow, that was an evolutionary moment. We're going to talk about 2021 for the rest of our lives.
It was a
That
huge
is
year.
the year hip hop was born. That's 1983 in hip hop.
So, but you're still working in like, astronautics and still teaching for that, correct?
Every day,
And
every day.
now, how, I guess, how do you feel like now you have kind of, I mean, you can kind of incorporate NFTs to anything you want, but you know, at some point it's kind of hard to mash the two together in your life, in your same lifestyle. So, do you plan on incorporating NFTs into your teachings, or do you kind of want to keep it separate, or are you seeing a future with creating the new space NFTs? Like how
I think you're teasing me.
why is that?
I think you're teasing me. Like, how are you going like, the way you just said that about this, like keeping NFTs and Web3 separate from space and space education. Like how, and because first of all, those things define
Yeah.
me by
Hmm.
choice. And then the other thing is that, as I pointed out, Web3 is the evolution of
Hmm.
commerce. The reason the evolution of commerce has showed up right now, Rudy, is because humankind has evolved. We have evolved.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we live alongside Homo sapien right now. I'm not being metaphoric. We live alongside Homo sapien in the exact same way that Homo sapien 40 to 70,000 years ago lived alongside Neanderthal. Today, we Web3 live alongside Homo sapien. That is all the challenges that is going on in the world because evolution is messy.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of trial and error too. It's not a straightforward or the
So when I talk about what like space and tomorrow's jobs in
hmm
space and grant students the permission to imagine themselves living, working, and playing in space. Here's a funny thing. Look here, this right here. These are coins. You know how heavy this little container of coins is? Does anyone imagine? Yeah, this little pill bottle of coins. Does anybody imagine that we're carrying coins to space?
no.
You know how much, like the heart, it costs so much to ship. It's 10,000 a pound
Jeez.
to ship stuff to space on the inexpensive side.
Wow.
So you know how much it costs to ship Ethereum to space?
No, tell me.
Nothing. It costs a number equal to nothing. Mass wise, the
Hmm.
mass of Ethereum is nothing. And so we are developing a culture in space, and of course there is a space economy, and there will be. We are migrating to space, and there will be, and that it doesn't mean that we're going to other planets or to other moons or even the asteroid belt to live. But I know this: we're going off planet. 90% of the energy that we get from the sun that hits the Earth is diffused by the atmosphere. 90%. So where's the best place to put solar collectors? In the place where we're getting
Yeah,
10% of the energy, or in the place where we get
right
90%?
above. Yeah, 90%. That's what we're trying to hone in on.
And so when we're definitely doing
Hmm.
that, we're going to be doing that. And when we're shipping that energy that we're collecting from that vast amount of solar energy that's pelting the planet continuously on a day in, day out basis back to the planet with microwaves, where we're going to be living up there, and we're going to be making exchanges. And we're not carrying photographs, hard copy photographs. We're not carrying paintings. We're carrying digital artifacts. We're carrying digital icons. We're carrying digital currency. Everything it gets to be digital, and all of that works
Wow.
with Web3. So Web3 and space are not distinct things; they are the same thing.
And you almost need
Pum,
it. You're right, because otherwise,
almost
you definitely,
nice.
you definitely
Thank
need
you.
it. Just because, yeah, like you said.
I'm glad you're enrolled.
Sign me up. Where's the next lesson? When
We already talked about you doing the zero G training already. Like,
that's awesome. I mean, I wish I could do that. I mean, hopefully we could do that soon. Hopefully, there'll be someone doing that nearby here, but we'll see.
so when you reached out to me about being on this podcast, you let me know that this is the
Wholesome
wholesome
crypto.
crypto, right? And then also, like, you blessed me with the designation as being wholesome, that I am wholesome, and I like I
You seem like a wholesome guy
wow.
to me,
You
but
don't think that made me feel good?
I'm glad. It shows about making
That's
everyone
the
feel good.
nicest thing. One of the kindest things I've ever heard. Thank you. And I'm grateful to be here on Wholesome Crypto
I'm,
Podcast. This is a terrific
I'm
idea.
super grateful to have you on, because, yeah, like, my thing that I thought about you is, I think something I always preach about what we need to do is education. And you seem like, well, you are teaching everyone what
There
you
you
know
go.
as much as you can, and to share with them what you envision is the future. And kind of like what one thing you kept saying was, you give the gift of having the dream of being able to go to space. Like, that's what you're giving.
I give students permission to imagine themselves living, working, and playing in space. Not just living and working, playing.
That
And students, when we're kids, we don't think about being grown-ups and not
no,
playing wisely. We don't think that. We only think that when we're grown-ups. And we're like, oh, I'm not playing, I'm a grown-up.
that's
Wow.
what you're taught.
What is
It's
the
terrible.
what's the 10-year-old who lives inside us think about that? And what's the 8-year-old who lives inside us? Like, look, like those, like the versions of ourselves, but like the big things was like, which toys am I getting this
Hmm.
year? How sweet is that?
I
And that's a good approach to life. And whenever I have any questions about what should I be doing next, I check in with that version of myself, because that person never lies.
It's true.
The 8 and 10-year-old
They
version of
can't lie.
myself, they won't. They're not going to. They're going to tell me the facts.
And if they are, you can quickly tell. They just can't hold it in.
No, if the only ones who's doing any fooling is me.
Hmm.
It's like the grown-up version. Not and I've been well trained by the 8 and 10-year-old version not to mess around in that regard. Do what you love with who you love and help others. All three are to strike. Do what you love with who you love and help others. So that's what as a grown-up, I bring to me as an 8 and 10-year-old. And that's I think that's what you're referencing
Hmm.
in terms of what we call wholesome. That's what possible. And we all have challenges. We really do. In my worldview, in my experience, Web3 solves for a lot of those challenges. So anytime, I don't just talk with students, I also talk with grown-ups about how to talk with
Hmm.
students. Because for some reason, we as grown-ups forget how to do that. I don't really believe that. I think we get so caught up in our own importance,
Lose our
or
patience.
our responsibilities, those things that we decide on, that we don't talk with that version of ourselves anymore. I need to grow up.
Yeah.
I need to be mature. I have responsibilities, and inside that, like the 8-year-old self is like, no,
Don't leave me here.
don't be that person. You were the person I made fun of when I was when I was 8. How we thought of grown-ups who were like too serious and not fun, but we always knew the ones who got it right.
You can
And
quickly
that's what
tell.
I get to model not only to students, but also to grown-ups, to remind how to communicate with people who are students. And these tools that are Web3 that we're putting in students' hands today that create the world we want to live
Hmm.
in. No, they create the world we want to live in, Rudy.
They do.
To
The
create,
next
yeah,
gen.
that
Yeah. So, but like, I- for me, it's like you're traveling all over the world, like Mexico, England, Bahamas, Jamaica. I've seen your profile,
Scotland.
and I feel like that's the one thing that's always or very similar is the kids in all those countries. The adults act kind of differently, but the kids all have that same attitude. But I mean, tell me, what was your experience like? Kids in different countries and like how they've grown up. Obviously, not everyone gets the same privilege and you know activity to be able to do what they can.
Oh,
But
you're gonna make me cry. I'm right there, man, because it's not the same everywhere. And there are people who are children in Haiti that as a grown up, we look and we see children that don't have any spark in their eye,
mm,
and it seems impossible. For a person like myself, it means that I get to change everything when I see it, when I see that. And that to me is the big challenge, is that we are able to have a world where everything works out for everyone all the time without harm to anyone. We are able to do that. And how we do that is we start by acknowledging that a lot of us have the idea that that is impossible, that it's impossible to have a world where everything works out for everyone all the time without harm to anyone. And that since we are evolved beings, that we can shelf that idea that it's impossible
mhm.
and entertain another idea simultaneously, because we have that capacity to hold two ideas in our head at the same time. And that idea that we are working to create a world where everything works out for everyone all the time without harm to anyone. And when we start to do that, what would it look like? And that's the question that I ask peer grown-ups. And that moving people away from the idea of what is impossible, not arguing it.
Mhm.
I'm not arguing that it's not impossible. All I explain is that we are evolved beings and we can hold two ideas in our head at the same time. So we take the idea of what is impossible, that we can't have everything work out for everyone all the time without harm to anyone, put it on a shelf, we shelf it mentally, and then we entertain another idea. What would everything working out for everyone all the time without harm to anyone look like, Rudy? And when we begin working as a group together, thinking on that, I know for sure it is this. One, the role of billionaire ceases to be in the way that we have it right now. Not the individuals who are billionaires. That's different. I'm not mad at people who are
Mhm.
billionaires. It's the role where people are encouraged to hoard resources and assets that engender scarcity for the greater population. That that doesn't work. So the first thing is we undo that. We figure out a different way forward, because the role of a billionaire, if we re-engineered it, it would be somebody who's responsible for distributing wealth and assets. That's a reimagining of the role of billionaire. Someone who's responsible for distributing resources and making sure they're available to everyone.
Mhm.
See how quick and simple it was for us to get from the one place where it was impossible to a place of possibility? It took us maybe 2 minutes at best. You and me just
Just
did that.
discussing and thinking about it.
And that's what we're capable of. And so when any of us as grown-ups see that there are children who are in this state of being where they don't have any hope, a child, that turns me into a superhero. That's the thing that does it. Like, there's no movie superheroes, none on this planet. There's no Iron Man, there's no Black Panther, there's no Wonder Woman, there's no Hulk, there's none of those characters. There's us. We get to be the superheroes. You, me, and we get to decide on what that means.
Now you're gonna make me cry. Jeez,
I love you, man.
I love you too. And I love what you're doing.
I
It's
received.
such a it's just needed. I haven't had the opportunity to make changes traveling, but every time I do see something like locally or nearby, or even like friends or families, my favorite thing is always like, oh, I can't wait to teach them about the future and get excited about the future. And like, I love bringing hope because that's, I had hope as a kid. I was lucky enough to have it, and I always want to share it. And like, as you were saying before, like thinking about myself as a 5-year-old or 8-year-old, 10-year-old, what would future Rudy do? What would future Rudy want from present Rudy? I always talk to myself in like different tenses, just to say, don't forget about this moment and what you're working for. Don't forget about how you can reflect today for the future. Because, no one wants to live life in regret. You never want to think like, I wish I did something different. But that's,
I want to share something with you,
please.
since you have gotten to this level of conversation. So memories are not static; they're dynamic. And so that version of yourself, the 8 and 10-year, whichever one matters to you, we all have different ones that are really poignant and important to us, and there can be many of them. We get to go back and we get, and if one of them feels dejected or what was the word that you used when we disappointed? What was that word you said? Regret.
Mm-hmm.
If some version of ourselves feels regret, we can go and visit them and change that experience for them, not metaphorically, yeah, think of it as memories as being a metaverse that we get to visit. And when we change the experience for that version of ourselves who's feeling regret,
Mm-hmm.
when I do you ever go to buy something like a NFT and you miss it, and then it blows up, and you're like, oh god,
I've seen
that
it, yeah.
yeah, okay. So being there with that person, that in whatever, however that shows up, it can be for ourselves at 5, at 10, at 15, at 25, like the path not taken, whatever the thing is, we get to communicate with ourselves there, this version of
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, and go and walk them through it, explain how it works out to our benefit now. We get to have a conversation with them. We get to make space for them. I've found versions of myself that were really being punished, and as a superhero, I drop in, and the very first thing I do is make space. I just move everybody away from that version of myself. I move them like this, like Professor X. I'm telling you, I'm letting you know very specifically what I do. You ever had a version of yourself that is really in need of some support and assistance? Like I did. I went through some some real experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and that version of myself needed support at that moment. Well, am I going to live with that memory, replaying it over in my head as a YouTube video, or I'm going to drop in like a character in Fortnite and make space? I can tell you that it's the latter,
Yeah.
and I do. And now here's the most interesting part: is that all those versions of myself that are in alignment now, whenever I find a new place where in my own history and future that I need support, all of us are there. All versions of myself that I got in alignment. Everybody who I helped work through whatever challenge or regret or attack
Yeah.
or failure that they went through, that I worked with them to get right with, they show up in the next one to support that version of myself.
I love how
So when I drop into a room, I'm multiple man.
I love how I
I'm
describe
multiple.
that. It's just because it's similar to how I also, work on myself and better myself. Is if I'm going through a tough experience, I'm always thinking, all right, what do I learn from this experience? How is it affecting me emotionally? How is it affecting people around me? What's the vibe I'm giving out because I'm having a tough time? And what do I do with my character, who I am? And you're saying it as different versions of yourself, and similar to how I handle it as different teachings to myself. So I'm just experiencing something new, learning from it, and holding it in. Like I not holding it in as in terms of not expressing it, but I'm not forgetting the moment or the whatever I was going through. I was always like thinking, okay, this is what I'm going through. Look at it.
If you think I'm letting you off the hook without elaborating, I want you to
Well, I'm
like.
looking at myself as a third person a lot, a third person point of view. So something easy. Say if I'm pretty.
So right now, in the now, you do.
Yeah,
that.
right now I'm doing that now.
In this now,
I'm seeing myself
that we're
over
in,
here.
not the now of the past and not the now of the future. Right here, that you can do that. You can third person yourself.
I'm always third personing myself.
Cool. So carry on.
so
Tell me
I'm
more.
always third person.
Tell us more.
I thought you were my guest. Anyways, I'm always third personing myself because.
Did you ever see Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you remember Jeff Spicoli and Sean Penn?
Mm-hmm.
And he orders a pizza, and he goes, Spicoli, you are on thin ice right now. And he goes, well, Mr. Hand, if I'm here and you're here, doesn't that make it our time? So you're interviewing me, but it's our time.
It is our time.
So tell us about this third person experience.
It's just like being able to see things as if you were looking at me and talking with me. A simple thing is like if you're saying a joke, or if I stumble or hurt my toe, something like that. Like something that's typically comical from an outside point of view, like slipping on dog shit or something. It's kind of like, it sucks, but it's kind of funny if you see someone else do it. It happened to someone else. But if it happens to me, I'm like, that sucks, but I'm not gonna let it ruin my day and like be upset over it. It's just it's kind of funny if I look at it in a different perspective. Those kind of things.
So you can make that shift. You can do that. You can do that automatically.
For most cases, yeah. Unless it's something like really intense, but like
really like oh my god, I'm so embarrassed right now.
But I mean, even like that, so it's kind of funny because even on this podcast right now, I know I'm like, oh no, this is me, and this is how I'm acting in front of the world, and it's kind of funny. Like people listen to me talk, but this is who I am. It's kind of funny.
Cool. Yeah. So like it's neither of us is acting.
No.
Like we're here, and that's the difference. That's like we all know people who act, and we have buffers that we enter in the spaces that like to keep ourselves protected and defended, and then we get to a place where we're like, oh, you know what, I really don't need that so much. Like approaching a relationship or a new engagement with vulnerability is the way to go. Like it took me forever. I'm 57 to get to a place where I enter into every new relationship in trust. Everyone, and like it is not. It's simple. It's just not easy.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect.
But the reward is the world you and I both want to live in. All of us want to live in. And it means that not everybody is at this place. So I'm modeling it at the same time. And then people are like, how did you get here? And I was like, okay, so then I slipped on dog poop a lot, like, as you put it. Like I did that. And then I got okay with slipping on dog poop because we slip on dog poop. It happens. Yeah. It does happen. There's dogs here. They poop. And it happens. And so, or whatever else, or throw up on myself, or poop my own pants, or any of the things that so many of us we've all been through these things. I mean, like if you have a daughter, or you don't, but like if you do, then you know that when a girl gets her menstrual cycle, and that first time, it can happen at an inconvenient time. These can lead to moments that we think of as traditionally as embarrassing. Or they can be something else. And we can take those moments that happened that we were originally embarrassed by, and we can transform them.
Makes us better.
We've all had those. Like I have a story that I love to share. That when I was in 7th grade, I asked Celeste Hooks to the dance, and she said yes. And so and one of the two most popular girls in school, Celeste Hooks and Desiree Martin. And she said yes. And we go to the dance, and we're in the middle of the dance floor, and music's playing, and she's just like yelling something at me. And I'm trying to understand what she's saying because I am a oblique 7th grader, 12-year-old, like pretty much all 12-year-olds, and I finally suss out that what she's saying to me, Rudy, is let's dance. It wasn't so challenging. She was saying, let's dance. Like, that's how removed I was from the situation. In the middle of the dance floor
Man.
with
What else could it
dance
be?
music blaring. She's yelling it at me because I'm so oblique. And so I respond back to her in great obviousness at the same volume that she got through to me at. I can't dance. As the DJ dropped and I'm right in the middle, and I'm surrounded by all my 12-year-old peers who turn and look at me and are clearly saying with their eyes, "What's with Mike?"
What? And how was your reaction?
And to my credit, I did not start crying there. I just mechanically, robotically turned 180 degrees and walked through everybody looking at me and out the room and to the library, which is my safe place, and sat down, and I bawled. I mean, I gave myself up to it. I was over in that way that only middle school students can be. Like, my life is finished. That's it. I'm mortified. I'm done. And to make matters worse, those nerd teachers, the ones that aren't the cool kind of nerd, but the kind of like that person followed me out to make sure I was okay. And that person came up and told me that, "Don't worry, buddy, it's gonna be okay." And I was like, "No,
it's definitely not gonna be okay."
And so then I played that memory for a decade. I played it. I mean, like, I would think back on it in that way that we do, statically,
while you're sleeping,
replaying it, landing back in it, getting into it, and
just cringing hard.
Every single time. Until finally I was at Berkeley and I was studying psychology, and I had some text that explained memories are not static. Memories are dynamic. And that's all it took. So help me goodness. I put the book down, I sat, and I immediately went right to that memory. There was no question, no matter what, of all the stuff that I've gone through in my life, and I have been through so much, so help me goodness, I'm grateful for this experience that has been my life. I went to that moment, and I said, "Hey, Mike, it's me, Mike in the future." And I would be lying if I told you that he immediately paid me attention. No, he was dedicated to feeling that shame and embarrassment and a finality and the whole everything, the major drama that he was going through. It took me 2 weeks of consistently going back to and say, "Hey, man, it's me. Hey, man, it's me. I'm here to help. I'm here to help." 2 weeks after doing that, I finally got his attention. And I remember where I was when he looked up and said, "What?" And I was like, "Oh my God, it really genuinely works. Like, memories are dynamic." I'm like, "It's me. It's me from the future. It's you. It's me, you. But I'm in the future." And I'm like, "I have arrived to let you know that I'm here to tell you 3 things to make you feel better and to get you through this traumatic moment that you have committed to memory."
Wow.
1 is that you tomorrow, the first thing I have to share with you, young Mike Mongo, I told him, is that you tomorrow are going to start to learn how to dance. You're going to start to practice how to dance. Tomorrow, you are going to start learning how to dance. You're going to become comfortable with your body. You're going to be comfortable in front of people. You're going to start feeling what this thing is, dance we're talking about. And so help me goodness, the very next day, I was at home. I was there alone for whatever reason. Nobody was home. The radio, we had radios then. The radio played the Beach Boys, Good Vibration. And I remembered, I'm learning how to dance today. And I took off my shoes, got up on the coffee table, which was low to the ground for whatever reason, but you're like a little kid. And in my socks, started to like groove, just feel the beat. And so from that day, I became the dancer I am today. I'll dance anywhere. When I was in the military, I danced in front of people naked. I told them, I was like, "You're going to dance in front of people naked. You're not even going to care. You're going to be okay wherever you are. You're going to feel great about yourself." Confidence. Yeah. First thing I had to tell you. Second thing, Is it you invited Celeste Hooks to a what? What was the thing called that you invited Celeste Hooks to?
A dance.
Oh, it wasn't a car wash? It wasn't a cakewalk? Because what did you think you were going to do there, buddy? And he's like, oh,
So
like, he like
obvious.
doubles down. I'm feeling bad. I'm like, no. I'm here to make it feel better. I just want you to be like, can you be a little more present? Like, it's going to make a big difference in our lives. Can you be present?
Mhm.
Be present. That's my request of you. And I said, I said I was here to tell you three things and to make you feel good. And the third thing, and here's the third thing. You invited Celeste Hooks, one of the two most popular girls in 7th grade, to the dance. And she said, yes, playa. You are the man. Like, immediately in the future, me at 23 felt like a titan. For the first time after all of that time, it immediately transformed that, Rudy.
Wow.
It immediately happened. It happens. And now I look back, I'm like, wow, why did I stay with that process for 2 weeks? Like, that was the I just got this just like a couple weeks ago. My buddy Brant came into town and we were talking about crypto stuff, and I just got this, and it was like, oh my gosh, of course I know why I stayed with it for 2 weeks, because me here in the future is there. All versions of myself are like, hey man, stay with this. This is going to make the big difference. You stay with this until you get through to him. I'm there with that, the 23-year-old who made that decision, that commitment to took a stand for 2 weeks. Don't you think that's a little unusual? But now I know how it works. Like I said, we've evolved, Rudy, and this is one of the tools available to us as evolved human beings. And these are Web3 tools. And that's why things like redemption and reparation are part of this whole thing. They get to be.
What amazing technique.
This is the world that we're creating. This is the future we're creating. This is what NFTs create. The Muttniks project, The Muttniks project came about because Laika went to space, and we sent a dog who was the best dog available. The best dog. The best dog, man. You know what that means. Like, that's a great dog. Out of the hundreds of dogs, we sent that dog to space because she was best. And we knew that spaceship was designed to euthanize her, which means to murder, kill. And it didn't work. It didn't. So she didn't die a quick death. That's what we did. Because of her contribution, her sacrifice, because she willingly leapt into the spaceship. The scientists who put her there cried. They left work knowing what was happening.
That's tough. I did not know that.
Because we did that, because of her sacrifice, we as a humankind went to space. Her contribution, the dogs, the Muttniks that went to space. So what do you do about that here in the future when we know we did wrong? And so that's why we created the Muttniks as a reparational model, a model of reparation, a simple NFT, believe it or not. Because what we do with the Muttniks, like the great thing about it is that we take the funds that we raise with the Muttniks and we help mutts that are alive today. And furthermore, we're not just honoring the memory of Laika, we're also celebrating them with new identities and new existences in the metaverse, what we call the metaverse at
Metaverse.
Yeah, make it fun. Yeah, and that's what is possible. Like, that sounds so simple, but when you look at it, the kernel of truth is there, and that is, it's possible for everything and all of us. If we can do it with dogs, me and Kyle talked about this forever. If we can do it with dogs, Kyle Schember at Subtractive, who is my co-creator of the Muttniks, if we can do it with the dogs that went to space, we have all of these other things that we think back on that were grave injustices. Not the least of which is that in the United States, we enslaved human beings. I'm not a person that says they. I am the person who did the enslaving. I am the person who was enslaved. I am the person whose children were stripped from them. And I can't imagine it any other way.
Put yourself in all shoes.
Well, how can we not be? Is there anybody extra here? Is there anybody who dropped in? If there's anybody who dropped in and here stuck, then they're part of the party too. So knowing that how we solved for Muttniks in that situation, I am aware that we can do the exact same thing here in the future. And when I explained this to my son, who was 11, who just turned 11 this past week, when he was 10, I explained reparation to him. I explained it like this: Raphael, if you had a toy of your friend's and you broke it, what would you be responsible for? And he said, to replace the toy. And I said, yes. And what else? No, he said, first he said to say, I'm sorry.
Mm.
The first thing he said was to say, I'm sorry. Do you know that this nation has never apologized for slavery? Not to slaves,
Wow.
to the people who were enslaved. The idea that people who were enslaved are these magical people that we call slaves, that's a falsehood. They are people who we enslaved. Do you know that like on a quarter in the United States, there's a person on a quarter of the United States? Do you know who that person is?
Washington.
George Washington. And what's he famous for?
His cherry teeth. I don't know.
The teeth. Tell me about you said the cherry teeth, but you meant the cherry tree.
Yeah.
But also the teeth. So, but there's like, he's most famous for because he's the first president of the United States. He's one of the founders of the country. But you mentioned his teeth. You know something about his teeth?
What?
His teeth were made from other people's teeth. They were pulled out of the mouths of human beings.
I actually didn't know that. Nope. No idea.
Yeah, you can Google it. We have the teeth. We have the set of teeth. You can see the teeth. Do you know whose mouths they were pulled from? Not slaves, from people who were enslaved. People who were people. Slaves are people who we call slaves. They're people. They're you and they're me. They're our parents. They're our children. They're people. That's the whole thing. That's the mystery of it. And this nation, the United States, has never apologized. And you start there. So like Raphael figured out at 10, what's the first thing that's required of you if you break someone else's toy, Raphael? To say, I'm sorry. And then I said, what's the second thing I would require of you? And he thought about it and he said, to replace the toy. Bingo. And it doesn't matter that it's now, the people who died, we can't do anything about it. Reparation is still it's still there to be accomplished and achieved. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it's simple. And that's why, and like, just to wrap it up, bring it back, Rudy, like, because we're talking about NFTs and I want you to take on what is possible with Web3. This model for reparation we are showing with an NFT project, a PFP NFT project. And it really matters because I always say that if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, it's BS.
Yeah, that's true, or you just don't know the topic well enough. But
so that means that we're talking BS. So like, we can explain reparation to a 5-year-old. What is required of you if you break one of your friend's toys? To say, I'm sorry, and then replace the toy. That's the game.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple. We can all wrap our heads around that. And the thing is that, like, it's not that if time passes, that reparation doesn't get to take place, or that it's unnecessary, or that it's out of our reach. We created a model of reparation for dogs that died over 50 years ago, because the first dogs that went to space, like the first dog that died in space was in 1951.
Wow.
Yeah, like Saigon and Desic went to space. And then Desic and Lisa went up to space, aka Fox, within the same week, and that ship didn't make it. We over 100 dogs, like about 100 dogs, went to space, and about half of them didn't make it. So how do we make up for all those dogs? No problem. We make up for the dogs that are alive today. We make it up with the dogs that are alive that it matters to today, and then we celebrate the memory of the accomplishment of these dogs by giving them. We're creating, like with the Muttniks, we're giving these characters identity. And because it's here in the future, we're evolving them and giving them autonomy. Because this is what, like, if you can imagine it in the same way that imagining a world that works out for everyone all the time without harm to anyone, or imagining permission for yourself to live, work, and play in space. If we can imagine it, we can build it and create it. And that's
Absolutely.
a world that works out for. That's a future worth having.
Absolutely. And that's why I love Web3 tech so much, is because, especially in NFTs, it is like a lot of imagination coming to life, and it's nice seeing that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Speak on that. That's it.
That is it, and it's just interesting because like personally, I haven't like dabbled much in NFTs. It's kind of hard for me to know what's genuine and what's not. Um, but yeah, it's like I love the ability to give artists their chance to create, their chance to share, their chance to give a part of themselves to everyone else. They make 10,000 items, and everyone that owns one piece is a part of them. Kind of reminds me of Jonathan Mann. He makes a song a day. You get one of his NFTs. You own a piece of him, his history, his song, which is amazing. But I want to ask you this: what's your crypto pet peeve?
So I've heard you ask other people this.
Do you have an answer prepared?
I do. I mean, like, don't we all?
Yeah.
Like for me, it's a simple one, and I don't care. It's when people tell me that crypto is the problem, that is the source of all problems in the world. That crypto is destroying the planet. That Web3 is destroying the planet. The thing that is the solution is destroying the planet. And if that isn't typical, if that isn't on the nose, like, yeah, like, okay, so explain what invention came perfect when it got here. Explain what version of ourselves came perfect.
No such thing.
Because I can't think of anything.
No.
Not batteries, not engines, which have been around. The internal combustion engine has been around since the 1700s. Has it got more efficient since then?
Yeah.
At all? I mean, imagine. Yeah. Like, how far does a Toyota Prius go on a tank of gas, for gosh sakes? I mean, like, compared to, imagine what that first, in 1700s, that first internal combustion engine did.
Yeah.
And so that's you asked my pet peeve. It is people that say that, oh, look at the carbon impact of a Bitcoin transaction, which is legitimate. One Bitcoin, every single Bitcoin transaction produces as much carbon output as a year of an average household.
And
I mean, one Bitcoin transaction. One and Ethereum is just as a degree of magnitude better than that. But Polygon is a world better than that. So that every transaction that Polygon uses, like according to the graph that I looked at, that I researched and is solidly wonderful, every Polygon-matic transaction uses less energy than a cell phone charge. And so who amongst us is not charging their cell phones?
Everyone, yeah, has one.
Yeah, so like, yeah, of course there's going to be the person who's like, cell phones are the thing. No, bad. Batteries, electricity. And I'm not arguing with any of them. I'm not arguing with the person that says electricity is bad. I'm not arguing with the person that says that the mistake was climbing down from the tree. I'm not arguing with the person that says that crypto is destroying the planet. I'm not. Web3 is a thing that moves us all forward. Yeah, we're not perfect at it. Yes, we're getting majorly, masterfully better at it.
And
at every single day, and then where it goes to from here, I will not be surprised. I know where it goes to. It's only the people that don't want to go there that are really upset by the fact that that's where we're going, where there's enough for everyone all the time, without harm to anyone. Yep, that's my pet peeve.
Thank you. And yeah, it's true, because even things like solar panels that weren't even efficient back when they first came out, now it's becoming more and more efficient. Hopefully,
people were against solar panels.
People were.
Yeah, people are against wind power. People are
against everything. You always find someone who's against something.
We do. We can. It's called letting great be the enemy of good, something like that. Like if it's not perfect, it's not. We can't do it. That's the wrong approach. That's the wrong. That approach gets us nowhere. It creates. And we can't do reparations. We can't be redeemed. And how about people in this space that have made mistakes, who we love, We see that every day in NFTs and finding a way forward. Yes, if you are an embezzler, you do not get to play finances
No.
game. Does it mean you don't get to play? No, it just means you don't get to do that. If you're a person who hurts women, you don't get to be a counselor of women any longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if you, it doesn't mean you can't be redeemed. No, there is a way forward. There gets to be. There gets to be, and it has, and a lot of times it has to do with reparation, and a lot of times it has to do with personal work.
We're always taught to not always, but I've heard
Yeah,
often that, you know, saying sorry is a weakness. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. It's not a weakness. It's like, you should be, if you're in the wrong. Yeah.
If we're when we're in the wrong and we say I'm sorry and we do it again and again, that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
If we're in the wrong and we say I'm sorry and it doesn't change our behavior, then that's irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, for me, I accept I'm sorry, it's important, as long as the person or the institution or the country that is giving the apology is doing the work to not do it again,
Back it up,
and to make up for the injury that was created.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's that reminds me, you interviewed Brantley Millie.
I did. Yes.
Yeah, and that became a name that everybody became familiar with.
It was.
And
yeah, I mean,
in my worldview, all Brantley did was show us how a DAO works. He said, I was in the room when he said, I can't be fired, and he was right. But could he be voted out?
Yeah.
Yes, he can. He showed us how a DAO works. I mean, I listened to your interview with him, and you could hear it, like, you know, you could hear where he's coming from in there. It's in there. If you read between the lines, he is who he says on the label. So
I didn't catch it exactly, but yeah, it's there because I left the show up because it's historical. I'm not going to take it down for that reason.
So no, it's an important interview. It is, and his contribution is valid, and it doesn't invalidate his contribution.
Mm-hmm.
It's the other part that is the challenge, and that's the work that he gets to do, and and whatever lessons he's taking from it. But for us, it's like, I didn't want his head on a platter. I just wanted him removed from the position. And so when we had the rooms of 4,000 people talking about that moment, that's where I got to with it. I just want to know, how does he get removed? And the people from ENS, who were his peers, explained it. That was the question.
Yep.
That was the magic question. That was the thing that turned the key. And then 3 days later, he was removed. And that's what is possible here. We don't need to. When somebody does wrong, we don't have to. Cancel does not mean extinguish. It means that it means you don't get to, we create distance, and we prevent harm from happening further. That's what it means. And then that person gets to do the work, and that person can find again, the powerful words, redemption.
Yeah.
The person can find that, and then have a life. I don't want them to be done. I want them to find that as a beginning for a new way of being.
Yep. And no one,
the lessons that
I mean, that's exactly, because I feel like a lot of people who were trying to cancel him were just loud and yelling cancel, or just, upset, and rightfully so. I mean, it was upsetting what he said, but no one tried to reform or re-educate him.
Nope. Stop. Hold on. Wait. Slow down. I got to cut you off because it was hurtful what he said.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. First of all, and no one tried to re-educate. That's not our job. That is not the job of people who are being injured.
But
he was absolutely abjectly in the wrong, and that's a full stop. And he can have his opinion, but the idea that having an opinion doesn't have consequences is a falsehood. That's the challenge.
Sure.
That's the game people said. And being tolerant does not mean tolerating intolerance. Yeah, it's like we don't have to play catch-22 to succeed.
But sometimes people, I mean, for me, if someone's alone, they're not going to be able to understand on their own sometimes.
On the contrary. And there's been plenty of times where I've got to ship my son to his room when he gets to think about what he's done. Absolutely. On the absolute contrary.
With your guidance of education, though, from your parenting.
And that is all over the place. He is well connected. He has friends who love him dearly. It is not a person his sentence, those things that he posted where he is missing the point, what he posted kills people. It leads to people being killed. Do you know that Jamaica has where my family is from?
Mm-hmm.
I've spent years there, and it has the third highest murder rate in the entire Western world.
Wow.
You know who a large group of people who are killed in Jamaica are? People who are LGBT. When somebody like that puts something out, like when
It
somebody in a
reinforces that.
position of responsibility, like Brantley Milligan, puts something out like that, it affects people. And why should I point at Jamaica when it's as true in Iowa and Idaho as it is in Montego Bay? Holy moly, Jess Spicoli. Those words that he used, he doesn't understand. And he gets a timeout so that he gets to understand. His level of skill allows him to work in so many different places.
Mm-hmm.
He did not lose anything for that. But by the grace of good, may he realize the harm of his ways. That's a fact. It is not that it is on anybody who is LGBT or a sex worker or a person. All of the things he listed, a transgender for gosh sakes, to explain or work to educate Brantley Milligan. That is a grown person who is intelligent, who is surrounded by people who love him. That is not some of the people that
love
are
him
affected by
support his ideology. What's the problem? It's if you're surrounded by that ideology so much and people support you for that, it's hard. You have to. I personally, I feel like I have.
Did you listen to him in the rooms?
Yeah,
Rudy?
I did.
Yeah. So like, okay.
He
so
doubled down. He's not learning.
He did. Yes. We make our own bed. It's okay. And then when he's like, but y'all didn't read in my bio, I'm Catholic. And then while he was going under the bus, he worked to grab everybody who is Catholic and bring them.
And a lot of people who are Catholic also do not believe that.
Listen, we are all responsible. We all get to be the best version of ourselves. And because I'm tall does not mean, and I make a mistake, does not mean that people who are tall make mistakes. That is not, we don't get to make that extension. Ha!
You hit your head on the ceiling.
Your camera is off, by the way.
Oh, is it still off? I mean, I got it back on.
Yeah, it's been off for a while.
Sorry. Oh, okay, then I'll ask you the last question.
Okay.
What is your favorite wholesome crypto moment?
My most recent favorite wholesome crypto moment.
Anytime.
Is
wholesome crypto.
My most recent favorite crypto, because there's so many wholesome crypto moments. When I walk around this planet and my Lyft driver, my Lyft drivers, the people who happen to be holding the door for me, the person who's bringing me food when I order it, all of these people in these positions, I stop and make time and I ask them, is this what you want to be doing right now? And if they say yes, then I say awesome. And if they say no, then I say, do you own any crypto?
Wow.
And if they say, which they invariably say no, but I've been wanting to get into it, then I take the time to explain it to them. Not to explain to Brantley Milligan why it is wrong to be a bigot. Not that, but rather to explain to a person how to not live in scarcity and live in abundance. That.
But you don't know their ideology, the person you just spoke to.
Say again?
The person that you spoke to from Uber Eats, you don't know their ideology. Would you take the time to ask them how they feel about?
Oh, I have a conversation with them as a human being. Good. Absolutely. No, please, have you not? Have you not known who you're having a conversation with over the last hour? Have you not seen me yet?
No.
Oh, my Google.
I love that.
Yes. And they reach out all the time afterwards. I give them carte blanche. If you have any questions, reach out to me.
Awesome.
I'm here to help.
That's what's great about you, Mike. You're always here to learn, educate, share, and love.
Rudy, did you ever see Schindler's List?
I did a long time ago. I forgot it.
At the end of the film, there's a part where they bestow a gift to the character of Schindler, and he breaks down and cries because he said, how many lives can this save? Could this have saved? How many more lives could this have saved? And when you say something like, that's what's great about you. No, that's what's great about you. That's what's great about us, my friend. I have to say, do what you can, do what you love with who you love, and help others. And it's all three, or it's a strike. And if we all do that, this world gets to be the world we want it to be, and the future gets to be a future worth striving for, worth defending. Pow, pow, pow.
Pow. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate you taking that time to spend with me here, talk to me about everything.
Wholesome Crypto.
Wholesome Crypto. But thank you so much, and
I love you.
Love you too, and love received.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have
Cool.
a good night.
Yeah, anytime I can do anything for you, just let me know.
Will
Okay?
do.
All right. Pow, pow, pow.
Pow.